All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. All right. So today we are having our first, what did we say we were going to call it? What did I say we were going to call it? Joyful Moments. And we are joined by Tirra Hargrow. You all don't know, and we don't have time for me to go on and sing all of Tyra's praises, but she is our sister. She is our leader. For those of you who have read texts with me where we've talked about the female network, I know some of you have read that with me, and how women have had to bind together. Black women have had to bind together in order to be able to make it. Tirra is our leader. She is who we would say is the reason why we made it and are making it. So, Tyra, we want to welcome you to our mother work class. It's called Reimagining Survival and Joy. This session we're calling Joyful Moments. And so while everything we speak in here may not center joy, but that's just the place, the lens that we're looking at this through. Okay. And I asked you to be here with us because we want to speak to mothers who are not just mothers, but are also, practitioners and out there doing the work in the field. So many classes that I have taught, we've talked about the maternal health crisis, and we've talked about some of the evils in society and the things that are going on with Black mothers. And while we do know that those things do exist, we just want to center joy this semester. That's where we're coming from. So just to get started, I'm going to start with Tirra Hargrow's bio. From 2000 to 2021, Tirra Hargrow devoted herself to being a stay-at-home homeschooling mother, guiding her two sons through their entire K through 12 education. A La Leche leader and natural childbirth educator, she built her mothering philosophy around love, respect, and guidance without relying on yelling, punishing, or spanking. While she admits she was not perfect, she remained deeply committed to raising her children with compassion and intention. For Tirra, homeschooling was both a natural extension of motherhood and a protective choice. As the mother of two Black boys, she wanted to shield them from discrimination within the American school system and instead create an environment where they could thrive. Her dedication has borne fruit. Her eldest son is now a graduate of the U.S. Coast Guard Academy and serves as an officer, while her youngest recently graduated from college and is launching his career in Maryland. She and her husband, Craig, have been married for 31 years. Today, Tirra continues to nurture and inspire others as a dance and fitness instructor specializing in African dance and belly dance fitness. She also works as a women's empowerment coach and serves as a social media manager, a multicultural nonprofit, and serves as a social media manager for a multicultural nonprofit, carrying forward her lifelong passion for teaching, guiding, and building community. So thank you so much again for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
So I invited you today because one of the places that we're starting is with Patricia Hill Collins. She defines like other mother, right? These other mothers. And for you, you have always been a other mother for me. And I've talked a little bit about that with other mother, meaning that mother that's around. Whereas if you might not have your biological mother, you have your sister. I got to keep up with time here. So can you talk a little bit about, I wanted you to talk a little bit about your birth experiences with your two children, if we could start there. And the reason is because I know that I was like, I'm going to give birth at home because that's what Tirra did. But there's a reason why you did that, So can you talk about some of your decisions around why you gave birth the way you did and just how that looked?
Oh, yes. Thank you. So nice to see you all. And thank you all for being willing to hear these kinds of conversations, participate in them, because, Lisa's your other mother at this point. And it takes every generation to help the next one that comes behind us so that we can keep this going. So I thank you all for what you all are doing. In terms of my first birth, I did want to just give a little bit of a background because there were some things that led to it. The day of was a reflection of what came before. I always have been somebody who leaned towards being natural and healthy. And as I got older, I began to realize I should question more of like how I eat, how
Mm,
I exercise, just different choices that I was making around health and well-being, and what was the messaging coming into me. I don't know if I have a natural rebel inside of me. I probably do have that also. And so that also played into, well, why do I have to do things just because everybody else is doing them that way? And
mm,
so I began to learn how to question, ask lots of questions. Well, why do I have to do it this way? Do I have to do it this way? What are my other options?
mm,
Something else that happened was my mother had breast cancer, and well, this is more about the breastfeeding, but my mother and then my other mother, which was my best friend Toya, who's
mm,
about 5 years older than me, they really imparted this natural way because my mother had breast cancer and she was like, "Hey, you got to make sure you breastfeed your kids." I
mm,
met Toya, who breastfed her kids, and then she was from Tennessee, but was had lived out in California before I met her when she moved back to Tennessee. So she had this natural way of being too, and
mm,
talked about how she gave birth to her kids, and it was just like this really organic way of being a mom. And so
mm,
that got imprinted on me. So that when it was time for me, combined with this natural eating that I was into, when it came time for me to choose how I was going to have my babies, of course, I'm asking questions. I want to know what's the most natural way for me to do this.
mhm.
And that's when I ended up finding, I can't even think of the name of the company because it's husband child. Do you remember, Lisa?
I-
Husband led or supported childbirth or something like that. It's kind of like a company. I don't want anything to do with it at this point. But back then, oh, the Bradley method. Back then, it was revolutionary. And
Mhm,
so I found this Bradley natural childbirth educator, and she showed the first video she showed me in my class was a woman giving birth at home.
mm,
This woman was like a trailblazer. I mean, it was almost like you could go to jail for doing these kinds of things
right,
when she
right.
was doing it. And so of course, I'm looking at it as a first time mom, like, oh my gosh, I call it yoni, the vagina yoni. My yoni's gonna stretch like that. Oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? But once I got past that shock, um, I thought, that's interesting. Like,
Mm,
I didn't even know that that was an option. And it blew my mind because this was, like maybe fourth, fifth baby, something like that. She had multiple children and had
mm,
given birth to them all at home. The
mhm.
husband's getting her propped up, helping her out. And she's just
Yeah,
giving birth, what I call out in the natural,
right.
out in the raw, wild, in the wild. And the little kids were like, "Oh, mama's having her baby. It's time. It's time." And
Yeah,
so I'm like, these little kids are just looking at the little brother, little sister come out.
yes,
I just thought, you know what? I gotta go natural if possible. I don't judge anybody in how they have their children because every woman and every baby has their own way of coming in, the baby coming into this world.
yes,
They each have their own way, and we gotta respect women for however they got that baby here. That is a respectable birth. But I
yes.
said, I want to give it a try.
Give it a
And
try.
so the first thing I had to do was to find a doctor who would agree to let me have natural childbirth. So naturally, I went to a woman doctor first,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like she was going to try to control me. She was like, "Oh yeah, y'all all want to give birth naturally and none of y'all do. You're going to end up, basically she was like, "You're going to end up getting that epidural." And I
Uh-huh.
thought, she's not on my team.
She's not on my team.
And I said, "You know what? I know I'm 5 months pregnant, but I don't feel comfortable with this lady." So I just kept asking around, and it turned out it was Dr. Churn, this white guy. He was like, you want to go natural? Not a problem. I said, okay. Dr. Churn was my boy. I love Dr. Churn so much. Even though I wouldn't go back to him for my womanly checkups, I was like, no, I'm gonna go back to a woman for that. But he was a good obstetrician. And so Okay, so I took the natural childbirth class, first time mom,
Mm-hmm.
and took the natural, coming up with all the plans and take your time. It was all about don't rush to the hospital because as soon
Right.
as you get to the hospital, you get on a clock, and
Yes.
if you're not following that timeline that they want you to be on,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be putting you on track to have an epidural. And
Right.
so I started the day before at home.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I started feeling contractions because the first time around it's kind of confusing, like, what is this? And
Right.
for me, it felt like electricity. And then I called my mother-in-law. She was like, if you'll know if you're in labor because you can't sleep. So see if you can go to sleep. So,
Mm.
because at this point my mother had passed, so that was another other mother for me, my mother-in-law. So I contacted her. So I went
Mm-hmm.
to sleep, and then the next morning I called my sister-in-law who had a baby about 2 years before me, another other mother,
Mm-hmm.
and was like, "This is what's going on," and she was like, "Yeah, you're in labor," and that was probably about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time around, it's just like I didn't know what was going on. So maybe about 10 o'clock, my husband and I start making our trek from Clarksville to Nashville, which is about a 40-minute ride. So by
Okay.
the time I got to the hospital, the contractions had subsided a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But I had made a decision. I wanted to go to a hospital where women were successful with natural childbirth. And so it was called the Women's Hospital at the time. It's since shut down because natural childbirth does not make the medical establishment money. So they just ended that. But I labored in water, which is something that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just kind of like a normal childbirth. And I did have one hiccup with I I got to the second phase. The first phase is opening the door. There was the transition where we feel like we're crazy because the door is like trying to do all the last little part to get open. And then the second part is when the baby needs to get pushed out. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when you feel like you need to have a big poop. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got to that point. I had managed to stay natural. They had been trying to offer me epidurals and you
Mm-hmm.
can't get out the bed and you can't eat. They had done all of that, but I was like, I'm gonna go natural no matter what, right? And so I got to this point where they said one of the lips of my cervix was thick, and if you push the baby out, it could tear that. It's part of the door, it could tear it. So I
Yeah.
had to wait before I could do that. Finally, we got to a point where Kalfani, that's my oldest son, his head came on through. And so then I was able to push the baby out. I had to be on my back, legs propped up. The nurse got nervous that Calfani's heartbeat wasn't there. So they attached something to his head.
Mm-hmm.
And she's all nervous. I mean, she was shaking like this around me. I was like, I don't care what's wrong with you. This baby's going to be alive. I did not get to this point for me to not birth a live baby.
Yes.
Calfani was born. Everything was great. And we can talk about breastfeeding later. And then Kamau was the
Mm-hmm.
baby who my husband and I were not seeing eye to eye because I wanted to have Kamau at home.
Right.
And we just get influenced. Like everything can go wrong,
Yeah.
with having a baby. And it's just all this fear. And you got to go to the doctor and everything. So there's these books. One was Our Babies Ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
another one is Continuum Concept that made me realize
Mm.
women didn't go to the hospital back in the day. What is
Right.
all this business about going to the hospital? If I choose to not go to the hospital, I should be able to do that and not
Right.
be judged. Because Lisa, there was another book that I had referred you to. I don't remember, but it's
Ina
some
May
book about,
Gaskins.
huh?
Spiritual midwifery by Ina May
That's
Gaskins.
another one. But it was another one about a woman's intuition
Oh,
around. It's crazy because it was a book written by a man.
oh, I'm
And it
thinking about the
said
other.
women have an intuition. Spiritual midwifery is really, really good. Ina May Gaskin,
Uh-huh.
her works, like, you got to read those. But
Right.
the book that this man talked about how women have intuition, and even if I was planning a home birth, if I knew I needed to go to the doctor, it's like
Yeah.
something in us is so this thing around the conceiving and carrying a baby and birthing a baby. we are imbued with a lot of power, and we have
Right.
been made to mistrust ourselves. And in that regard, the men don't trust it because they don't know anything about it. So my
Right.
husband was like, hey, we're gonna have to make an agreement. So I decided to go to a birthing center and work with a midwife.
Okay.
Because of Ina May, I was like, the midwives, that's the way to go because they want you to be as natural as possible.
Right.
And so total normal birth. Loved my midwife. I actually had a black one. Her name is Carlotta.
Yep.
And I woke up about midnight in the middle of the night and was just like, I got to go to the bathroom. Went and I had learned trained myself to stay asleep. Went back, got back in the bed, and I was like, "Oh, I need to use the bathroom." And I was like, "Wait a minute, I just used the bathroom." So I was like, "Ooh, I'm in labor. This is about midnight." Called Erica on the phone. That's one of our mutual friends, just chatting away, waiting, not wanting to wake up my husband too soon. About 2 hours in, I was like, I feel like I need to wake him up because I started feeling unsafe,
Right.
like out of control.
Right.
And so it's about 2 hours later, I was just like, we gotta go.
Right.
I'm feeling like we need to get to the childbirth center,
Now
which
the
was
childbirth center. Yeah.
40 minutes away.
Right.
So Craig calls his dad to come get Calfani. And dad comes over, and Craig walks Calfani out to the car with dad. And while he's out there, I had this gargantuan contraction, like nothing I'd had the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And Erica wants to come over here and help me because Erica was pregnant and she was like, I want to go natural and I want to come and watch
Yeah.
you and stuff. I'm like, she ain't gonna want to go natural, looking at me right now. So then Craig comes back in the house shortly, and I had the second biggest contraction of my life. This was no, this was the one at this point. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm yelling and screaming just like we see the women screaming in the movies. And in a flash, boom, I was like, oh, Craig, baby's coming. He was like, oh shit. He said, what do you want me to do? I said, just don't be scared. He said, I'm not scared. I said, okay, wait a minute. I feel the ring of fire. I love childbirth education classes because my teacher taught me there's a ring of fire. You will feel it when the baby's head is
My
coming
book.
through.
Yes.
I don't remember it too much with the first one, but that
Right.
second one, I was like, oh yeah. Now
Oh, yeah.
remember with the first one, I'm on my back because I'm at the hospital. With the second one, I'm in the bathroom. I felt something was happening. I was like, give me, what are those blue things, the little pads that you put,
Yeah.
down? I had some of those, put them up under my knees on the side of the bathtub. Third contraction, bear down, baby shot out.
Woo. Wow.
Birth in the natural and the raw. Dr. Lisa's plants were at my house because she was in Africa. Those plants were kind of looking like this. After I gave birth, I did nothing. Those plants were like this. It's something very powerful
Wow.
about birth. This is like a real, it's a moment. It's an experience. It's not necessarily a medical thing. It is deeply spiritual to a certain degree or otherworldly, however you want to look at it. But it was it took complete fear of birth from me. I had no fear. And we had to go to the be transported because my placenta didn't come out after I
Mm-hmm.
had Kamau, it stayed in.
Hmm.
So we had to be transported via ambulance to actually get to the hospital at that point.
Oh man, did you went to Nashville?
No, we
Did
went to the one in Montgomery in Clarksville. Uh-huh.
okay, okay, okay. That's interesting. I've heard this story before, but today feels like the first time all over again. I think that I had forgot. For some reason, I thought you had gave birth in the living room, so I didn't realize it was in the bathroom.
Mhm.
And I actually thought this is why we need to rehear stories. I actually thought that you had decided to have the baby at home
Well, okay,
because
so there's a reason you think both. I labored in the living room.
okay,
And I
okay,
just kind of left that out, just, for the sake of
yeah,
time. But I
yeah,
did labor a lot in the living room.
yeah.
And
Okay,
I wanted to have a natural childbirth. And I
right,
felt like Kamau is my second son. I felt like he wanted to be born at home. I don't know if you remember Tasneem, because we were pregnant at the
yeah,
same time, and
yeah,
she was making the choice to give birth at home, although she did not give birth at home. She had to eventually go to Vandy.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
So you're not off. Mhm.
your decision empowered me to think that I could even have Lulani at home, first birth. And I tried to. But Eberfall was like, put your clothes on and get in the car. Like, this is not happening. So, but Carlotta was the midwife.
Oh,
She
you
and
had Carlotta. Oh,
I
okay.
had Carlotta, and she was the 1,000. She said that Lulani was her 1,000th birth and that she was her last. She said she was not. Now, I don't know if she stuck with that, but she
Yeah,
said
she
that
did.
Lulani was going to be her last baby.
I'm
So,
amazed.
yes,
Wow, I have chills.
no. So thank you for even introducing me to Carlotta. Because remember, we didn't have something was going on with our car, and you actually took me to a few of the appointments,
Mhm, I remember that. I do.
yes. So it's
Hmm.
because of you that I even know about that birthing center, was able to meet with Carlotta, all the things.
Oh, oh.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
knew I took you somewhere, but I forgot that you did go through the birth center. Okay.
Because Kamau was hanging onto your legs. That's how I vividly remember Kamau running in between your legs and us in the lobby.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm going to shift just for the sake of time to homeschooling. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions? I'm dying to know what's going through y'all's minds. What's going on? Any comments?
I just find it all really inspiring and like your strength is so admirable.
Thank you.
Just keep
Thank you.
that ring of fire.
Yes, the Ring of Fire. Yes. Mia is saying she keeps thinking about the Ring of Fire. Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
if you have ever had anybody, yeah, I don't know if kids still do this, but you know how we'll take each other's arms as kids and rub it like that. I don't know, maybe kids don't do that. Did y'all do that, Lisa? That might just be something we dumb
No,
Gen X kids
they do
did.
that.
But when we were kids, we would take each other's arms and do like that, with our hands. And, it was dumb fun is what it was.
Right. We
But
had one.
if you've ever kind of felt like something really scraped you, it was like a lot of friction there on your skin on the top. That's
Yeah,
sort of what the ring of fire feels like. It just feels like your skin is burning.
it does.
Not, it's doable. It's
It's
totally doable.
doable.
Hmm.
It's doable, but it does come up in a really weird because it's on your cervix, like that
It
area. So
feels like a ring though.
and it does feel like a ring. That's what I'm titling my book. That's the name of my book, The Ring of Fire.
I
But
love it.
it is like, yeah, we could go on and talk about the Ring of Fire, but let's keep on. Um, so not only did you decide to just have a natural birth and to begin to question things, you also began to question America's education system because you had these boys. So
Yeah.
could you talk a little bit about your decision to homeschool?
Yes. So I'll give just, it's like I have to kind of go back in order to go forward. So for me, breastfeeding is the thing that levels the playing field for any mother who feels like she's had a rough start. Not every mother is able to breastfeed, and we need to respect that. We give thanks for formula for those who can't.
Mhm.
But breastfeeding was something that it was like one of the last commandments for my mother before she died. I was 27 when she died. I was 30 when I had my first son. And so I was committed. I was going to do everything I could to breastfeed. I did start off really rough with the breastfeeding, but I started going to La Leche League meetings. And it was at La Leche League meetings where I began to learn more about this. It's more about guiding your kids than feeling like you're this authoritative parent. And in being that way and in connecting with other women like that, I started meeting a few homeschoolers. There was one in particular who was coming to the Leche League, and then I started taking African dance classes, and this is when I saw my first ever Black homeschooling mom. Her name is Ola Omi. I still know her to this day. Her daughter reached out to me to talk about how to homeschool her child. So I was just like, this is full circle because your mother is the reason that your mother homeschooling you is the reason that I homeschool.
Mhm.
So it was something about the way the kids were. I'm staying at home with my kids. And I don't knock kids who go to school. My mama sent me to school. For the most part, all my friends' kids have gone to school. I don't have a problem with school. I believe in public education. I really do. Um, However, there was something intriguing. And like I said, I think I'm a little bit of a rebel. There was something intriguing about this homeschool thing. I was like, this kind of looks cool.
Mhm.
And I just started thinking about it. And so, interestingly, we just, hold space for these children that died and experienced this terrible mass shooting yesterday because
Mhm.
it was a shooting that happened actually in England, if y'all can believe it, because it was weird because they don't even have guns over there. But
Right.
right around, it was getting close to the time for my older son to go to school, and there was a shooting in England. And I
Mhm.
thought, this, I don't know if I want my kid to go to school.
Yeah.
My heart goes to all young people nowadays. We have failed in this system because this is ridiculous. So
Yes.
but I had the foresight, and I
Mhm.
thought, you know what? I don't want my kids to go to school because I want to protect them from that. Number two, I had all this education about when do things go wrong for black males. I got two black boys. When do
Right.
things go wrong? And
Mhm.
so I just started saying, you know what? I just want to see, can I homeschool my kids for as long as possible? I'm willing to go the whole distance. And I had been a substitute teacher, and I would hear how the teachers talked about some of the students. I was like, "Ooh, this is bad." Like I would not be a teacher sitting around bitching. Oh, I'm sorry. Going off like that. I usually don't cuss, but it makes me angry that they're
Yeah.
talking about kids like this. And so I decided I'm going to homeschool my kids. I had to get my husband on board. And nope, I didn't know anything about it. My knees were knocking, but I thought to myself, I can keep them safe.
Yeah.
I can custom make however they learn. And they
Mhm.
both needed it because my oldest son is super smart, but he was
Mhm.
super young. And
Mhm.
so I just was like, I can get him started.
Right.
Maybe get him mature if it doesn't work out and just get him to school once he's a little bit more mature. He turns
Right.
out to be amazing. And then the younger one, he really and truly has trouble reading. He would be in trouble if he went to school. But I didn't know that when we started. And so, yeah, I decided to homeschool my kids because they were black male children. And the last little bit I remember thinking is, I want to keep them intact as much as I possibly can. I don't want anybody to inform them. I want them to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
And if somebody's going to tell them something, if somebody's going to be feeding something into their subconscious mind, it will be me and my husband about how great they are.
Right.
And so I would love watching my kids wake up on school mornings, especially when they were little.
Mhm.
Um, and they would just wake up and look at the ceiling and just they were just being. It was actually foreign to me just to see a kid who's just like, I'm just here.
Mhm.
I just wake up and I don't have to think anything or be anything. It was just, again, very natural and organic. Very challenging journey at times. This was not an easy journey, but we made it. If y'all can ask me whatever questions y'all want to about it, because there's kindergarten, middle school, high school, post post high school. It's a lot I could talk about. So just tell me what y'all want to know.
Y'all have any questions specifically about homeschooling? Question?
Mhm.
Hi, thank you so much for like talking about like your journey of like birth and also homeschooling. I was wondering if you could talk more about how you like decide like design like a curriculum for both your kids, like throughout like K through 12, I'm assuming, and also how you like decided on like what information to like teach them, especially like things that are like not really taught in like public schools or like, private schools.
Oh, that's such a good question. Because I actually wrote some notes too, just in case I would forget. So, it I had to have different strategies, first of all, for each child, but also for each level. And so I figured out with my older son, K through 3 would be unschooling, which is very non-traditional. It's scary for people, but it's a lot of times people call it child-led learning where you just kind of, for me, I was not the type that could not have structure. So there were things like, okay, you can't have the TV, like it would have to be on PBS
Mhm.
between this time and that time during the unschooling hours, because we had to homeschool 4 hours out of the day. So they could only have the TV on certain channels during that time, and that would force them into finding different things to do, very different time from all the technology and stuff that's available, but still it was sort of techy. And so it was like, okay, if you're going to be on the computer, it has to be something educational. All the little games like Clifford and Carmen Sandiego, and they would play, and I would buy these poster boards with like letters and numbers, words, pictures, all kinds of things. We had books and we would go to the library. So it was like I created this learning rich environment. There's a book, well, I don't know the name of the book, but unschooling is a concept that I learned from this man named John Holt. I don't know a whole lot about him, so if y'all look him up and he seems to be not a cool guy, I don't know all that. But at the time, he was like, "Hey, if you read and you have a reading rich environment, a kid is gonna learn how to read." And pretty much my older son is self-taught with reading. He was very rebellious and, I don't know, it's just his personality. So I just kept books around and I would try to teach my kids. This is why I ended up in unschooling, and they would be so rebellious. It was like they rejected it. And I just wouldn't give up homeschooling at the time. So I just created this learning rich environment. When they got to fourth grade to eighth, that's when it was like, no, this is school time and we're going to do things way more structured. And initially, I used workbooks like fourth, fifth, maybe a little bit sixth grade. It's like I could just use workbooks. I would go to the teacher supply store. And a lot of what I did was I would look online and find out, okay, if they're in fourth grade, what are they learning in school? To make sure I was always touching on that if anything ever happened and they had to go back to school. Um, and then maybe around sixth, seventh, eighth, I started recruiting tutors, or we had these collectives that the kids could be a part of where maybe the moms were teaching the class. Like my younger son started taking Spanish maybe when he was about sixth grade or something like that. We had a Spanish speaker, and we had all the time there was field trips that we could take, but there were also sports, like one of my friends led the track team, they were on the track team. So we just had all these things that they would do throughout the day. There was this online, lots of online stuff. I mean, we were like the beginning of kids learning online. So I would find just different programs that they could learn online, any subject. I always kind of maintained the home unschooling energy throughout the whole time I homeschooled. And so there were times when I was just like, I mean, no disrespect if anybody's is a history major, but I was like, these history books are so boring. I cannot do it. And so we would watch documentaries together, like on PBS or all kinds of stuff on YouTube. My kids did get a lot of African history because I could teach it to them. And then right around seventh, eighth grade is when I started really dialing it in and turning it more into like traditional school. Like, here's your schedule. I never cared the order that they worked in, but I was like, every day, here's what you're going to get done. And if you don't get it done, you just don't stop. You're going to keep working on it. I never let my kids get to the point where they couldn't have a summer break. It was like, no, you're going to finish this today, right? So we got way more dialed in because I thought when they get to high school
Yeah.
in Tennessee, you got to treat them like they're in high school. They have to have this many math credits, blah, blah, blah. And so, I got super serious at that point. I did have to hire quite a few tutors. Both of my kids went to the local university here because they have it where high school students can take community or college classes. So I did that. We had this thing called it's not a tutorial, but it's like a tutorial, but it's the parents who were leading it. And they took British English and we did government, and it was some different classes. I don't remember everything, but it was like these different classes just because that was what one of the parents knew or I knew or whatever. The nonprofit where I work, a multicultural arts center, they got exposed to people from around the world because that's what we do. I can't even begin to tell you how many different people they would see Japanese, whatever the Japanese drumming is, these singers that would come together from all kinds of countries singing together, Morocco, you name it, they met people from everywhere, experienced culture, from all around the world. So that was something else that was different. And I literally would tell people I'm the most unperfect homeschooling mom. I just would fail forward. I would just be kind of like, well, let's just see if it's going to work.
Yeah.
And when things did not work, because that second born, there was something about him and reading. The firstborn was a rebel. And I just would test him to see could he read?
Mhm, mhm.
And I remember about seven, I'm like, how does he know these words? I'm
Right.
not able to get him to take any English classes. I know that sounds crazy, but we really don't have control over our kids. And I didn't want him to hate learning. I wanted my kids to love learning.
Yeah.
And then at some point, he just started reading, even to this day. But that's what the unschooler said. Now,
Mm,
the K through 4, you could say Charlotte Mason and
yeah.
Montessori. They informed what I did also. I studied their techniques and I introduced it. The second one was very kinesthetic. My second born's very kinesthetic, very averse to reading. I kind of messed it up when he was younger, trying to get him to learn how to read, and I was impatient with them.
Yeah.
And it kind of shut his brain down. Even at 10 or 11, this kid was struggling with reading and writing. And
Mhm.
I just hung in there, hung in there, hung in there. And one day, when he was senior in high school, I picked him up and I threw him in a college level English class. I was like, please let this work. And what I'm so grateful for is my kids were kind of like any other child, resistant to school, but they wanted to excel. And he just figured it out. And he graduated and went on to college and graduated just fine.
Yes, yes, yes. And he just recently graduated from college. So yes,
Yep.
congratulations. You
Magna
did.
cum laude. Thank you. The first one graduated summa cum laude. The second one graduated magna cum laude. So many people told me I was going to mess my kids up by homeschooling.
Yeah.
I said, well, we'll see.
Yeah. My aunt told me the same thing. She was like, you need to put them kids in public school. And I was like, not yet. So yes. And again,
So
I
good
started
for them.
the homeschool journey because you were homeschooling. And it was like permission. It was like we have permission. I felt empowered with so many decisions I made as a mother because of you. And so I'm thinking about the mothers that you're speaking about, even your mother talking about the need to breastfeed. All of the kids were breastfed for at least, well, Lonnie went till about 3 or 4, but the rest of them exactly 2 years. It's like you're gonna get your 2 years. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'm going to turn the page a little bit here, and I want like, well, first of all, are there any other questions before I jump? Yes, go ahead, Cynthia.
Yes, thank you so much for all your insight and everything. I really appreciate your persistence on protecting your kids throughout like unprecedented situations that happen, especially in there. I did want to ask, like in your pursuit of protecting your sons, how do you account for aspects of their environment that you might not be able to control, especially as they grew into adolescence and um, like all those extracurriculars and all those external um, pieces of their learning environment came into the picture.
Oh, that is so insightful that you could see that. There was always this part of me that felt like I always tell people I appeared to be a helicopter mom, but I wasn't actually because I believed
Mm,
in my kids having to learn how to deal with challenging things. And so, my biggest thing was let me just make sure that there's, people who are not here to hurt children, just
right.
normal people here.
Mhm.
Let me just make sure that I account for that. But other than that, when you're with other people, you need to know how to follow the rules. If they do anything inappropriate, of course, let us know. But otherwise, you need to learn how to deal with other people. Um, you know, I always took my kids everywhere and I let them know we don't just hang out with homeschoolers because, I mean, quite frankly, some of them are weird. My older son got to a point where he was like, I want to make sure I don't look like a homeschooler. These homeschoolers are looking like homeschoolers. I'm like, but you're a homeschooler. My younger son looked like a homeschooler a lot. He's my artist. What can I say? But I didn't want my kids to be limited in who they hung out with. And so I remember when they were younger, and they are a little insulated, when we're homeschooling them, they're just with us. And when we would go places where there were kids who weren't homeschooled, it's, kids from all kinds of backgrounds. And sometimes they would meet kids who it almost felt like they were getting picked on. And it was almost a foreign concept for my kids. They were like, we don't even know what to do. Bet, putting you in karate, putting you in taekwondo. I'm sorry. So I put them in taekwondo class. And there was a homeschool taekwondo class, but then they would go to class or be with everybody in taekwondo at times. And it was like, you're going to have to learn how to stand up for yourself. I wanted them to get frustrated because they need to know how to handle that on the inside. I didn't want them to be just like going crazy and not knowing, what to do. So when it came to the adults, that was my responsibility to make sure that I was choosing adults that were going to be appropriate and all that. If they weren't, we would have handled it. They were in Boy Scouts. And when they were the Cub Scouts, the little ones, I was the one that was in charge. Once they went to Boy Scouts, then my husband took over and he was the one that was always there. So, and in Boy Scouts, they are not, the parents aren't supposed to be helicopter parents, which they will do that. And my husband would be like, nope. My kids knew when we're Boy Scouts, you stand on your own. If you forget something, that's on you. So we wanted to instill that in our kids. And when it came to other kids, it's like, hey, you're going to have to learn how to navigate this.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted it. I welcomed it for them.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Um, yes. Hi, my name is Bursu. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I just wanted to ask, what is your advice for mothers who are interested in homeschooling or like would want to homeschool their kids, but just like the demands of like work life doesn't allow them to, or like if they have like a 9 to 5 schedule?
There's a lot of women who get creative. Very good question, because it is something that a lot of women have faced. Um, and sometimes they get creative. And if they're able to pull it out off, they have a support system. It's not possible to choose to homeschool your kid if you're working full time and you want to homeschool. It's just not possible. Not for them to get a quality education. Now, unschooling is something that some people do from start to finish, and it works. For some people, that was a choice. I do want to mention that that was a choice I could not make for my kids. I
Right.
thought to myself, I can sit around here and let them be footloose and fancy free, but the world does not see my sons like that. And I did my best not to talk to them like, hey, you black men, it's hard on y'all. I did my best not to instill that because they're so young and impressionable. And what mama and daddy says, it really does matter. But I did let them know there's certain things that you don't want to do because
Yeah.
you may not be granted grace if you do it. So the closer we got to high school, I was like, y'all are gonna know how to read, you're gonna know how to write, you're gonna know how to do math, and you're gonna get on a path for some type of career path. I don't care what it is, but you're gonna be on a career path because you must. And they get it now. I don't even have to tell them. They know what it's like to be a black man. But there are some people that choose to do the unschooling path, but children need direction. That's something my mother taught me. They need guidance and direction. And so some of the mamas who work will have a partner or a parent, like their mother, who helps to homeschool the kid. It all depends on the laws where you live, also who can homeschool your child.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this is something I want you all to know. If you choose to become a mother, you're a homeschooler no matter what you think.
Mm, mm,
I was just talking to one of my goddaughters. Her little boy is in, I think he's 3, maybe almost 4. And no, he's 4. And the teachers he is having a lot of trouble in preschool. I don't even think he's at pre-K level. Preschool. And I said to her, I hope you know that his ability to write his name at 4 and all that is BS. Like, this is ridiculous. We're asking kids to do things that their brains are not ready for. That's one thing I loved about unschooling. It made me respect child development. I
Mm,
said, but if we're going to enforce this on a child, never ever do you think that that school is responsible for raising or teaching your child. If that school is not teaching your child what your child needs to know, that's on you. You need to
yeah,
take that child to the library. You need to do work with that child at home. You need to
yeah,
get that child tutors. And I said, I noticed it with all my friends whose
yeah.
kids go to school. They act
Mhm,
like I'm this grand, great woman. Oh, like this is crazy. You can homeschool your kids. But I see people hiring tutors and
mhm,
doing all kinds of stuff, putting their kids in enrichment programs and doing all kinds of stuff because they know ultimately it's on them
mhm.
to make sure that their child gets the education that they need. So if a mom wants to homeschool, she has a 9 to 5 job, maybe you're gonna find a Montessori school to put your child in. Some school that maybe this is something else that I'll say. How do we find an educational process that matches our children? Not
Mhm.
every child is
Yes.
gonna feel good about sitting at a desk writing on a piece of paper. There are some kids that are like, I love that.
Mhm,
And for those kids, they thrive at school as we have it.
mhm,
But their kids have all kinds of different learning styles. We have all the neurodivergent brains out there, and that should be respected. And I think it's incumbent upon each parent to look at your child and make a decision. What's actually best for this child, this one child right here? Whatever I did with my first child, it may not work with my second child. And so
mhm,
I will see if I can find a way that will help my child learn to keep their confidence intact. If I can't homeschool them, what's the best way for this particular child to learn? And you always have to be on your child's side. You never get scared. Like, when the school says they should be at whatever reading level. What?
mhm,
The reason this doesn't even make sense is neither one of my kids, they would have been labeled, horribly.
mhm,
But
mhm.
because they didn't have to worry about labels, my kids didn't even know what a grade was until maybe about third. And they were like, why people keep asking me what my grade is, mama? I'm like, just say third. Just say second. I would just say this. And they had no concept of reading levels or anything like that. And they learned how to read. So I'm like,
Mhm,
always say I'm taking a stand for my child. This child is going to succeed. I'm going to do everything to keep my child's confidence intact. And if I have to homeschool them, you can figure out your state because it does depend on the laws of the state. What's the best way for me to do that? Or what's the best way for me to get my child in a different learning environment that would feel like a homeschool? Because this is so many more options out there right now. I probably am not even the best person to teach, but this is the mindset I would offer for a mom to use.
I'm gonna turn the page here. We actually have to turn it. So,
Okay.
when, so one of the things, students, this is only our second class. So students are going, for the remainder of the course, we're gonna be talking about mother work, we're gonna be talking about motherhood, we're gonna be talking about joy.
Hmm.
So something Mother Work talks about is the ability for us to do what we need to do to ensure that all children are doing well and
Mhm.
also that the earth is well, that the environment is well. And
Mm.
you've talked a little bit about that, but I would love for you to lean a little bit into how you have found joy for yourself,
Oh.
found but also created joy for yourself as a mother. So, what has been joyful for you? How have you created that joy in throughout your journey of motherhood and motherhood?
Yeah, that's really important. I have to say, some of my best memories are me, you, and Lisa. I mean, me, you, and Erica.
Yeah, yeah,
I
they're
miss
gonna
those
be
days.
too. Yeah,
We had there's just never been another group of friends
for real.
that was like us.
Nope.
My heart is very I just feel so much love and happiness and so much warmth. as I
Yeah.
remember the good times that we had as sisters. And so, having good friends, there's a few friends I've had here or there. So I always have needed connection as a mom. And I am different in so many ways. So, on one hand, I was a homeschooling mom. So I didn't have a workplace where maybe there was some built-in friends or whatever. And then I don't know, spiritually, I'm just different. And so it just made me feel very isolated. But I have oftentimes just had that one good friend to just sit around and laugh and enjoy one another. Um, I mentioned I'm a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my ways of keeping sane was I would go to the gym because I've always loved working out. And so I would go to the Y and I found this format called Zumba and became a crazy lady. My kids knew when it was time to get in that car to go to Zumba, don't resist. Because
Right. Just
mama, like I said, y'all, I was that mama that was like, Calfani and Kamau, I'm gonna, like, what we need to have a talk. I'm talking very gently. I did my best not to come with fire. But baby, if they mess with my Zumba time, get in this car. I need to go. It was like the club. I'm like, you ain't gonna deny me. Get in this car. I'm crazy at that point. And I became a Zumba fitness instructor, a water aerobics instructor, um, a African dance instructor. And now in my 50s, I decided I wanted to do belly dance. So a belly dance instructor. Dance, it's like, what is your joy is what I would recommend. And for me, ever since I was a little girl, I love dancing. So that, I'm not gonna lie, I need to, I've needed to make sure I spend time with my husband because we still have a marriage.
yes.
So I do find joy in my connection with my husband. And I have to admit, I encourage young moms now to do better than I did. I just never really would take a serious break and just be away from my kids. And here and there, maybe a little bit. But I wish I had done just a little bit more. Like, I'm just gonna do a little mom getaway. Just gonna go stay at a hotel, and y'all can. And my husband loved that kind of thing. He was like, "Oh, it's me and the boys. We going to." He would take pictures of them getting ice cream at like 10 o'clock in the morning, post it on Facebook, trolling me and that kind of thing. Reading.
So Craig, that's so Craig.
That is so Craig. That is so
Craig.
Craig.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
Mm.
yeah, those are the things. I'm really a connective type of person. Relationships is like the number one thing. I don't have a lot of needs. So if I have one good friendship, I'm
Mhm.
good. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, that kind of answers the question for me. I think your role in the community, for me, it's thank you for sharing that your mother, and I think you said, was it Tasneem?
Toya.
Toya, who were like your guiding lights. Because for me, it's always like it's you. And
Mm.
Erica is the sister. She's like the
Yeah.
sister, like I feel like we fell under you. But to
Yeah.
hear who was guiding you, because I'm like, oh, well, I can directly see how that impacted me. And, then I'm thinking about, who I've spoken to and how it's kind of rippled out. So just thank you
Mm.
for um, everything. I still can see you cutting on the video and was like, have you ever seen a birth? Okay, well, this was a birth is going to be like. I remember that day of sitting in your living room and doing that. And I remember us talking about breastfeeding. And I don't know if you remember how I struggled when I had to get the nipple shield and then lost the nipple shield and because Lonnie wasn't eating and all those
Oh
things.
my
So
gosh, I forgot all about that.
I
Yeah.
know that was you who were helping me just even figure out how to breastfeed and how to do it well. Right.
Hey, yeah.
And then like with the education of the kids and just how to be a mother that did not traumatize the kids, just to
Mhm.
summarize. Yeah. So I'm just, if I've never from my heart said how much you have just impacted me as a mother, just know that I am so very grateful to you.
Oh, you have told me, but thank you. And I'm so grateful for you. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Do we have any final questions? I can't believe they so quiet and don't have nothing to
I
say.
have a question.
Okay.
I'm Jaden. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
You're welcome.
Something that intrigued me in your bio was your decision to try to, I don't know if you would label it gentle parenting, but like not yelling, punishing, spanking your kids.
Yep.
Then you mentioned today, like looking at parenting as like guidance rather than authority. And I was just curious, like what inspired you to do that? Just like, especially in the Black community, like I feel like that's not as like common or like embraced. So I just want to know like your journey with that.
Oh, thank you for asking that. I love that. So yeah, it to a certain degree, I might would say it started with all those La Leche League meetings I was going to. So I was a natural childbirth educator. I believe in getting that type of support before you have a child and go to, if you want to breastfeed, go to breastfeeding classes or connect with La Leche League. Because there's so many different types of moms there and, different approaches. But La Leche League itself really talks about how the breastfeeding relationship it actually leads to being able to guide the children. It's something about the connection and the baby builds up trust and that kind of thing. That's not to say it's not there if you don't, but it definitely is something special about that breastfeeding relationship because it really tunes you into the child because your body literally biologically responds to when the baby cries. The mother will feel her milk drop down and that kind of thing. Um, and it leads you to just, I don't know, it's just a connection that leads to a certain type of way of guiding your child. We can use the word discipline because that's what we're used to, but it's more of like this guidance. But do you know, it actually started. I had trauma as a child. I was like, it's just certain things I'm not okay with. I didn't like it as a child. I was a very sensitive one. I had a rebel for an older brother, and then I was the little good girl,
Mm,
sensitive one. And I was like, if you yelling and spanking the other one, this one over here is feeling it. I don't want to do that. It was just a whole lot of stuff from my childhood where I was like, it felt unsafe. And I
mm,
did not want that for my kids. And I
mhm,
thought to myself, well, the logic of I can spank my kids because I love them more
mhm,
than kids maybe like when I was substitute teaching. I ain't gonna spank these kids.
mhm,
I'm like, well, why do they not get spankings and I can talk to them, but the ones I love the most, I've got to spank them. And
mhm,
it is rampant. My husband was like, oh, I'm gonna spank these kids. That's how it started out. He changed it eventually. But I just thought to myself, oh, last little bit, my mother died when I was 27. It was life changing for me. It made me see the world wholly different. And I thought, I don't know how much time I have. And I
right.
know what it's like to miss a mama. And I want my kids to remember me because my mother was not a big spanker. She really wasn't. She was a little bit of a yeller. We probably deserve some of the yelling that she did. She was a little bit of a yeller. I didn't, it was a little bit too much for me at times, but she was more gentle. Even her sister would tell my cousin, who was modeling herself after my mother, another sister mother moment, oh, you trying to be like your Aunt Lil, doing all that new age parenting stuff. Because, me and my cousin, we were trying to be, let me talk to my child, you know?
Mhm,
And so I decided I'm not gonna spank my kids. I had to manage the yelling because I would lose it and yell. And I was like, hey, you said you weren't gonna do this. It wrecks them and it wrecks me. So I managed that, and La Leche League is what helped me to. It was through these classes. They would be like these little conventions, and I heard someone talk about don't punish your kids. There are natural consequences, but to actually punish your kids, it's arbitrary, and sometimes it doesn't match. And what you want is for your kids to be making choices when you're not there. If they're afraid of punishment, when that punishment is not there or that retribution is not visible to them, they'll just do whatever. And so it was through learning through La Leche League. Attachment parenting is something that I really got into at the time. And I was a little bit of a different attachment parenting because I was like, I mean, I just have to say it how it was. It was mostly white parents there, white mothers, and then I would be the one black mom there. And I was just like, these kids are running these parents. I can't do this. My kids are never going to run me. I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be loving, and they're going to understand there's rules that are going to be adhered to, and there may be a natural consequence to it. And
Mhm.
so I was a little bit more firm in the attachment parenting circles, but attachment parenting truly informed a lot of how I worked with my children. So that our babies ourselves is really good one. Dr. Sears, I think is a, for me, he was good. I haven't heard anything bad about him here lately, but so I just made that choice. And so many people were like, I remember one friend said, these kids are going to be messed up because you don't spank them. And I just said, proof will be in the pudding. We'll see.
In the pudding. It's in the
And
pudding.
my kids are amazing humans. And I'm saying it as somebody who looks at them like, I don't even know if I really had anything to do with it. They're
Mhm.
good. They're really good. Not perfect. They did stuff. They don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
They did stuff. They got in trouble. But I never was really big into punishing. It was more of like, we're going to have a discussion about what's going on with this. And let's see what other choices you're going to make in the future, because this one is not one, you know? Plus,
So,
if you have a black man for a dad like my husband,
yeah,
you'll fly right.
slow down. So,
But Craig, let me just say this real quick. My husband started working for Department of Children's Services and started realizing how spanking and different things like that negatively impact the children's brains. And then he became a non-spanker too.
yeah, yeah. Craig's a great man anyway, though. I'm gonna end this by just asking you, what if you had to just summarize your greatest joy of motherhood, what would you say it is? The greatest joy?
I just love being with my kids and appreciating them for who they are and being a witness to their lives. If I could say that it was a moment, it was when Cal finally graduated from the Coast Guard Academy, top of his class in that white uniform. And I just remember it's just like all the thoughts. You're gonna
Mhm.
fail, you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail, all the messaging. And then seeing Kamau graduate magna cum laude, all the thoughts, you're gonna fail,
Mhm.
you're gonna fail. And then that, just to see them walk across looking so good, I was like, it was all worth it.
Mhm. It was all worth it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank y'all. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna stop recording.